Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Victoria Dowling. I'm the sales manager of the renovation team here at Cross Country Mortgage. And we have with us, as always, our favorite designer, Kate Troyer. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
If you've watched our show before, welcome back. If you're new to our segment, every month we stop and we take a moment to talk about all things design and renovation loans. And renovation loans are great. They're a fantastic way for you to borrow the money to either purchase and renovate or refinance and renovate. And they lend against the future value of your house. So you may have applied for a different type of financing, like a cash out refinance or a home equity line of credit, and they told you that there wasn't enough equity in the property. But with renovation financing, again, we're going to get after that future value. So we've got more flexibility than you would with traditional financing to help you get your renovations done and really make your house the home you want it to be. In the past, we've talked about topics like top 5 ways to maximize your budget, different outdoor renovations that you could include in a renovation loan. We talked about how to feng shui your home office space. And today we're going to talk about DIY or don't. And this is a big topic. I feel like it comes up on almost every renovation loan we do, where people ask, can I do this work myself? And so we're going to talk about it from 2 perspectives. First, will the renovation loan allow you to do the work yourself? And second, we'll look at it from a designer's perspective. Is this something that is worth it to pay a professional to do, or something you could do on your own? And so when we talk about the renovation aspect of things in every topic, you're going to hear me talk about health and safety. Health and safety is one of those things where if it is health and safety or structure of your house, it's something you're going to be required to hire a professional for. But if you're a licensed and insured contractor yourself, we may have an option for you to do the work yourself on your own renovation loan. We look at those on a case-by-case basis. For the most part, though, if it's included in your renovation financing, you are going to have to hire a contractor to do it. So with the current environment, I know with HGTV and DIY and Magnolia Network, we're all a lot handier than maybe the previous generation. I know I am now. So if there is something like that that you want to do on your own, that you want to tackle, and you've got the information you need to get it done, that's something I always recommend you do outside of the renovation loan, unless you're yourself a licensed and insured contractor. So let's dig into it. Let's take a look at some really popular topics people always ask about. And the first one is paint. From a renovation loan perspective, the only time you'd have to include painting in your budget and have it done by a licensed professional is if there's either chipping, peeling paint on the property or the exterior of the home, especially because on the exterior of the home, there could be some exposed wood. That wood might rot over time if it's not taken care of. So in that scenario, that is something you'd have to hire a professional to take care of, especially when the house is built before 1978. One of those layers is probably lead. So you're going to want somebody who's lead safe certified to handle that painting for you. But let's talk about it from a designer's perspective. So Kate, let's talk about paint. Obviously, paint is something people can tackle. Should they? What are your thoughts there?
Okay, so I think 2 things. One, if you are good at painting, like if you've painted rooms before in your life and you are aware of how time consuming it can be, and you're like, you know what, it's fine. I want to do that to save part of my budget because I want to allocate that money somewhere else, then I think, yes, by all means, go ahead and do your own painting. I think a lot of people underestimate how much, like, it's not necessarily a hard task, but it does take a lot of time, especially to do it right. I know that one thing we want to make sure is that we have, the right tools that we're going to use. Like even in this picture, you can see they have all that plastic, put down. And so you have to add all these other extra things, hopefully, like me, your dad taught you when you were young how to edge with a paintbrush so that you don't have to tape everything. But, if you're thinking about taping, putting plastic down, covering everything, I mean, that takes a lot of time too, just for the prep. And you want to make sure you have the right tools so that you are getting like a nice finished look. Like, you don't want people to walk in your house and be like, oh, I can tell that you painted these walls yourself. Like, good job. So I think for me, that's a toss up. If you've never painted before in your life and you don't want to tackle that, I mean, hiring a painter is not it's an expense. And the reason is because it's so time consuming, so that's something that, if you have a small budget and you really want, and you have a lot of things that you want to accomplish, painting is something that you can most easily do yourself and allocate that budget to something else. But, if you're not super tight on a budget or you have like time constraints, I think it's totally worth hiring somebody.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those projects that in the past, my husband and I used to be like, yeah, we're going to paint this. We're going to paint this room. But I think you're right. You've got to consider the time it's going to take. That's such a huge resource for you when you're renovating a property. And maybe you have to move in by a certain date. And painting takes a lot longer than you think, especially if you're trying to do it nights and weekends. And, maybe if you have beautiful drywall up, that might work. But if you have horsehair plaster like we do, maybe that's going to take a little bit longer and not be something you want to tackle.
Mhm.
One of the things I love about painting that you've talked about before on our calls too is the color consultations.
Yes.
And I didn't even think about this before you brought it up. I just assumed that this is something that would be super expensive and out of reach for myself. Like, oh my gosh, I can't hire somebody to come in. But you
Yeah.
were telling us it's actually not that expensive.
No, and I think it depends on, I mean, who you're calling. So typically, for me, I charge $150 for a color consultation, as long as it's kind of close, and that's for about an hour of my time, right? So if we go over an hour, obviously I'm going to charge more. If they're very far away, I'm going to charge a travel expense. But for the most part, and what I've realized, most people aren't painting their whole entire house at one time. So I would say on average, people that I do color consultations with, they're spending about $150. Um, and another thing is, if you don't have access to, a stylist or a designer, or someone who's very familiar with color, Sherwin-Williams gives you color consultations. And I don't remember if they're free. If they aren't free, I think they're like $50 or something like that. And they will have one of their color experts come out and help you with color. And they're actually, I mean, they're very good. I will say that, when I'm thinking about color, like, they're thinking about color from this perspective of like, okay, like these colors look nice together. They're really good at pairing Sherwin-Williams colors with Sherwin-Williams colors and giving you this really nice spectrum of overall color.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not always thinking about other rooms in the house. Like, they're not always thinking about the overall cohesive aspect of your entire home, which is something that I spend a lot of time with the clients, and they're not maybe necessarily going to steer you away from certain things. Like if I have a client that has really warm floors and they want these really blue gray walls, I'm going to say, okay, gray is okay, but let's actually go towards this warmer spectrum so that the floors feel cohesive with the walls. And that way they're not going to, especially like a golden floor color, which is actually kind of coming back now, those warmer wood tones. But for a while they were very out. So adding a cool tone to those is going to make them pop more, right? Because you're adding contrast. But if you're going with a warmer tone color, it's going to make them feel more cohesive. So they're going to pop less and be less noticeable. So those are things that, like, working with a designer is typically going to get you like that more in depth. So if you have a problem area, like your wood floor colors that you don't want to spend the money to refinish, but you want to tone it down.
Yeah.
I think everybody, if you're not very familiar with color, you should get some sort of color consultation. Because I mean,
Yeah.
just picking a white, I mean, there's literally just in one company's paint deck, there's 50 whites,
Yeah. That for sure opened my eyes when you mentioned that last time. I was like, oh my gosh, why did we never get a color consult? Because if you are going to paint yourself, and you
Yes.
know you're going to have to put on 2 coats and it's going to take your whole day up. The last thing you want to do is have to repaint that room. So making sure that's the right color is, I think, so important. I know I have painted a room the wrong color. I thought I was painting this room a lovely shade of green. Yeah. And it was like parakeet green. That should have been the clue to me that it was not the color I wanted. But so,
Mhm.
I thought that was a great tip. So certainly you're going to paint yourself, go for it, but know that this is going to take a lot of time. You're going to need the tools, and you might want to invest in a color consult. Make sure that you've got what you need. Did we have anything else on paint? I thought we might have had one more
Oh, yeah.
thing.
So there
Yes.
is this. So another thing, even if you get a color consultation, but especially if you are not doing a color consult, don't just go buy a color and throw it on the wall. Go get some samples, right? And I would recommend, do a cool tone color, a warmer toned color, so a cool tone gray and a warm tone gray. Gray is an easy one to talk about. And try both of them. Put them on the walls and see, and even leave it up for a week or 2 weeks and see how
Mhm.
you feel about it. See how it looks at night with your, with your lamp on. See how it looks during the day when the sun is hitting it. I mean, because that matters. And color is so huge to our psychology and how we're really affected by a space. So it's really important that you love that color. It makes you feel good and it promotes the vibe that you're kind of trying to create in the space. So you can go to your paint store and you can get samples, or you can use this website that I use a lot for myself and with clients called Sampleize. And you'll see they have PPG, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, and Farrow and Ball that you can literally type in any of those colors and you can order like contact sheets of the specific color and you can they come in a few days. I think they're like $5 or $6 a piece. So they're very inexpensive and you can just slap them up on the wall. And that's nice too, because now you don't have different colors of splotches all over that now you have to paint over and make even once you do decide your color. So they're really, really awesome for something like that.
Yeah, I feel like we could do a whole call just on painting. I honestly, like, my dad taught me how to renovate and do things when I was growing up too. And my husband and I have a couple multifamilies and we're always renovating something and painting something. And I learned so much from you about paint just the last couple of times that we talked. Because I've made the splotch mistake where I was like, okay, even this room, actually, I did like 15 different splotches of blue and blue gray. And then we had to sand it and prime it again. And I would have loved to have those lovely samples that you just slap on the wall. So great tip
Yeah,
as
it
well.
makes it nice.
So yeah, so end of the day, if you are going to paint yourself, do your homework, make sure it's a color you're going to love because it is going to take up your time to do it right.
Mhm.
But painting is a great one. It adds so much value to your house. We've talked about this before. It's like a 200% return on investment. However you go about painting it, you're not going to go wrong. It freshens up the space. It makes it feel like your own. It really just checks all the boxes.
Mhm.
So let's talk about our next topic. We've got lighting. So let's talk about it from a renovation loan perspective first.
Yep.
When would you have to do lighting? Again, the only time it's really going to come up as health and safety is if there are exposed wires. So let's say there were some ceiling lights and the previous owner took them. They're not there anymore and the exposed wires are there. At the very minimum in the renovation loan, you would have to have an electrician add in the bid to cap that light. And you could then certainly do whatever you wanted to in the future. There's no health and safety requirement for you to have lighting that's wired in your house. So you could always cap it, or you could totally include having a contractor come in and put up all new light fixtures for you and buying those light fixtures. That's absolutely allowed to be included in your renovation loan. So you can do that. Kate, I know when we were talking about this topic too, I learned so much. I was like, wait, what's out there? So there's so many options now too. If you are going to have a wired light put in, we're going to
Mhm.
want you as part of the renovation loan to do it with an electrician because that's something that's electrical, right? So we're going to look for you to have an electrician do that. But Kate, you were telling us about so many options that don't even require wiring anymore.
I know, it's so cool. And most of it you can get on Amazon, which is even better.
I love it.
We all love
Yeah.
Amazon, right? Yeah, so there are some different things that you can do. And if you guys look this up on Amazon, you'll kind of see, or you can Pinterest it, and it should take you to some different places. So they actually have wall sconces now. You know, not just the ones, because they do have wall sconces that you can plug in, right? That you run a wire down. I have one over here in my office. But what you can do is they have these, there's a couple different options. So I have seen a lot of people do this where you don't have an outlet, but you can get the actual wall sconce. And then there's like this puck light that takes batteries that's on a remote. And you literally take that puck light, you throw some batteries in it, or they're rechargeable, one of the two. And you literally command strip it onto the, to your light fixture up inside. So you never see it. And then you just control it with your remote. And it looks amazing. Like you would never know. It's so cool. So that's one option. There's another one with lamps. So let's say that you really need to light an area, but you don't have an outlet. You're not paying an electrician to come in and add an outlet for you, but you'd really love to put a lamp in that area, maybe like an entry or on an entry table or something like that. They actually have these really, really cool light bulbs. Again, you can get them on Amazon. It's just a regular light bulb. It screws in. And then what comes with the light bulb is this little like plug that you plug into, like it would plug in, if this were my lamp cord, it would plug into this, and it like runs the current and makes it's like it's plugged into the wall. It's freaking amazing. I know, isn't it so cool?
It's especially exciting for someone like me because I hate wires and plugs. Like I hate seeing them. And I feel like I'm always trying to be like, how do I hide that? How do I get that wired through the wall? But that's really expensive. So having options where you can have lighting that's not having to be wired or connected to a plug it's so huge. It's way less expensive. You can hide it so much easier. I love that.
Well, and think about it too, if you have like an open console table or something, and there's a plug there, but then if you don't have anything under it, you just see the wires coming down, which is something that drives me crazy, but it's like a necessary evil. Not anymore. Now you can just like bundle up your cords, tuck them behind your lamp, and and you're good. So it's like, I get really excited about it. It's a very exciting.
And I think you were talking about under cabinet lighting too, right? Or were you talking about the puck lights?
So I was talking about the puck lights. For those specifically, this is kind of somewhat of the same idea. So if you are not building into your renovation budget the ability to do, wired lights in your cabinets, and that could be like shown as your kitchen cabinets or even on the toe kicks of the kitchen cabinets or your bathroom cabinets. Again, they have, and these are, you can do battery operated or they have rechargeable, which the rechargeable is, I would go with that over the battery operated, but you literally, they're either remote control or they're motion censored. You can get both. And where you just, take them and stick them up, and they're not, remember like back in the day, or not even that long ago, but you could get like the little puck lights that you threw the batteries in, and you could like push tap them on, and they would last for like 3 days, and then you'd change the batteries again. So they're much better than that. They're like actual LED lights. And that's why the rechargeable ones are super nice, because you don't have to take them down to recharge the battery. You just like plug in your little cord and recharge them, and they last for a pretty decent amount of time. So you can change the colors. You can make them, you can get the motion censored ones, which I have some of those in our main bathroom. So when you come within like 5 feet of the bathroom, they light up under the toe kick, and it looks really fancy. And it cost me like $20. So
right. But it is something that looks so custom.
It does.
Because that's where you expect to see it, in a custom build out where they wired that from the beginning when you had your custom cabinetry put in. So, I think that just goes back to like our first presentation where we were talking about ways to get the most bang for your buck. That's a huge one, because it really does make it look expensive and functional.
Yeah, it really does.
All right. So lighting, what else do we have? Our next topic is tiling. All right, from a renovation perspective, if you're doing this through financing, when is tiling going to have to be included in your budget? With a renovation loan, we wouldn't require that you have a backsplash tiled in the kitchen. You could certainly do that on your own after the fact, or you could finance it in. That's your choice. That's an option. Flooring, if the flooring is damaged, we would definitely require it be included for you at least to repair the flooring. But if you're just doing some cosmetic change, it's totally optional to you. It's absolutely something you could finance in and have a tiler come and do, or it's something that you could choose to do on your own if you wanted to. I will say, I used to be one of those people where it was like, I'm going to do this tiling, I'm going to do it. And then when I was pregnant, I had to pay somebody to do it. And I was like, oh, that was really nice. I don't know that I'm ever going to do that again. But Kate, from a designer's perspective, what are your thoughts on tiling?
So a couple things. My thought would be on floor tiling. If you can afford to pay somebody to do it, pay somebody to do it. I've mentioned before, we just bought a new house and we're updating and doing stuff there. And we were like, oh, we're just going to do a couple small tile jobs. Like we could do that ourselves. Our dads are both very handy. So like we could they like own tile saws, like it would be fine. And we literally were like, no, we're just going to pay somebody to do it. Because you don't have to worry about the mess. And if you're not experienced, I would say that tile, not that you can't, like if you want to YouTube your way through it and learn how to do it, more power to you. But it can be very time consuming. It has a lot. You have to be very good with measurements, because tile can be a more expensive material. So you don't want to like waste your money by wasting your material because, oh, you kept cutting it wrong and things like that. I think if you can afford to pay somebody to do it, just do it. It's a pain, and it's a lot of work. It's not like painting, where painting's kind of a pain and it's a lot of work, but like most people can pick it up and do it. Like it might be time consuming, but you are capable, right?
Yeah.
Easily capable to paint. But when it comes to tiling, like it's a whole nother animal. And two, something you have to think about is the floor that you're removing before you put down the tile. Once you remove that flooring, is it level? If not, you're going to have to put, backer board down and make sure it's level. Otherwise, you just did all this work for kind of a crappy end result for a floor that's not level, or I've just seen a lot of tiling jobs that people have DIY'd. Like they might look nice in a picture, but when you're like actually looking at it in real life, it's not so nice. So that's especially with floor tile, shower tile as well. That's something that's getting wet. And if you don't do that properly, if you don't seal your backer board, if it's not level, if you have any leaks anywhere, now we could eventually get into structural damage. That's, because it's getting damp and it could just be getting straight water on it. And that's not something, that you want to mess with unless you're really taking the time to learn how, or you have people, in your family that know what they're doing and can help you. When it comes to the one thing I would say that you could maybe save on is like when it comes to like your kitchen backsplash. That's a really small area, especially if there's not already tile on there. That might be kind of an easy thing for you to put on and experiment with as your first kind of tile job. But let's say that, yeah, you could do it yourself, but maybe you don't have the budget to even do a backsplash. Like maybe that's just not where you're allocating your budget right now. Or maybe you're for anybody that's living in a rental, you could do a peel and stick wallpaper or a peel and stick tile. They have both of those options now. So that's something that you could do pretty easily and give your kitchen, a pretty notable update, without spending a lot of money and without having to be too committed on with your skills, I guess.
I think that's a really good point. So like if you're doing a floor that you want to be level and not stub your toe on every day, or, have trouble sweeping or vacuuming, yeah, that's probably something you should hire somebody for. Like pick your battles, like we always say. But Peel and stick. Every time we talk about that peel and stick wallpaper, I think of some other way that I need to use it in the near future. Such a great option. And it is like in this picture that we have here, it's really think about it. What kind of tools are you going to need? What kind of knowledge do you need? If it's peel and stick, it's going to have a big impact without a lot of cost and without a lot of possible things that could go wrong. You could just
Yeah.
always unpeel it, unstick it.
Yes. Exactly.
So yeah, I think that that's a great option today too. There are just so many more options, I feel like, today to be able to tackle some of these projects yourself than there used to be in the past, which is
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, you almost used to have to hire someone. If you didn't have the skill or didn't know someone, you had to hire someone or just live with things how they were. And when we are really, we forget how lucky we are that there's so many tools available to us now to really make huge impacts on small budget. And, even if you're not super savvy with construction,
Yep. Yep. Thank God for YouTube.
right?
All right. What's our next topic? What do we have? Oh, decor. So, from a renovation perspective,
Mm.
if something's cosmetic, you don't have to include it in your budget, which means it is something that you could do on your own afterwards. But you can absolutely finance in some decor to your renovation loan. When I say some, the reason I say some is because it has to be something that is affixed to your property. So, for example, built ins, light fixtures, wainscoting, board and batten, beadboard, like design features like that that you want to add to the property, you could absolutely do with a renovation loan. You can't do or you can't purchase things like furniture. So let's talk about decor. And Kate, from a designer's perspective, what
Yeah.
can people do on their own? What do you think it makes sense to hire a designer for? What kinds of things come
Yeah.
to mind?
So I think I love that you mentioned like wainscoting, board and batten, beadboard. Like those are three huge things that I mean you could pretty easily put up yourself. Obviously, if you're able to hire a contractor to do those things for you, you might be able to get more intricate, maybe an intricate design. Have more of a true wainscoting because there is like a contractor's wainscoting that is very thoughtfully done that meshes that is like the baseboards laid over it, all that good stuff. And then there's the wainscoting that you can do yourself with getting thin MDF board and kind of doing like I mean you really can't you can't really tell the difference necessarily, depending on the caliber of your home, of course. But wainscoting is a really amazing way to add interest and detail to your home, make it feel a lot more custom. And again, it's kind of like painting. If you can, use a saw and use a nail gun, you can basically do a pretty simple wainscoting. And it just makes it really makes a huge dramatic impact, I think, to a space. Same with your board and batten or doing like some sort of a beadboard with a molding on top. So I think that's a great option. Obviously, if you're going to do built-ins and things like that, like hire a contractor so that it doesn't look like you just went and bought some plywood and threw it, like threw it together.
Yep.
But I will say, another option if you want kind of a custom look, but not full built-in prices is IKEA has so many options, of different cabinets and things like that that you can put together and you can paint, it could be the same as your trim or the same color as your wainscoting, and make those, buy enough, to make them. I'm actually probably going to do this at our new house. We have a fireplace in the living room and just this open wall on either side of it. But I really want like some built-ins, but this house, it doesn't make sense for me. We're not going to live there forever, right? It doesn't make
Hmm.
sense for me to pay to have these beautiful built-ins made for it. So I'm going to probably use some sort of like possibly IKEA products, paint them the same color as the wainscoting that we're putting up, so that they feel like they were already in the space and they were made for it, even though they're not. And you can do that, for a pretty inexpensive price. Same thing with
Mhm.
floating shelves, are a nice way to add some detail. As you can see in the picture, that's always something nice you can add in a kitchen, a bathroom, maybe a library or office kind of study area. Um, Another way I think you can add interest with your decor. And obviously, and while I say all of this, my designer perspective on it would be is maybe you're not hiring anybody to really go out and purchase these things for you. But again, just like a paint consultation, sometimes just getting a design consultation where you can pick someone's brain about what your kind of ideas are, and they can kind of help you bring that together and give you some ideas that you wouldn't think about. For example, hey, designer, I really want to do a gallery wall behind my sofa, but I don't have a lot of pictures and I want something that's interesting. My take on that would be, have you ever thought about framing these postcards that your grandma had that you love? Or maybe your husband bought you this really cute card for your anniversary that visually is appealing and you really love it. Like, buy a matted frame and stick it in there, and like, boom, it's a piece of art. You can frame fabrics, wallpapers. I actually it's semi inappropriate, so I won't I won't show it on our webinar, but my friend years ago gave me, it was this notepad, and we'll say for without going into detail, it says things to do today, and then it has a little drawing on it, and it was like this vintage notepad, right? And she like tore a piece off and gave it to me, and I thought, man, that would be kind of cool, like framed. And recently I found it years later in an old book, and I was like, oh, so I went to Michael's, bought a little matted frame for like $20 and threw it in my gallery wall, and I absolutely love it. So,
Yeah.
a designer can really help you think about some things and give you ideas that you wouldn't, a lot of people just think, if I don't go buy this at the store and it's a framed picture, or it's not a framed photo of my family, they don't even think about putting it on their wall. But there's really so many things that you can do to add interest. And I just think my most important thing for my clients is that you love everything that's in your home. We talked about this last time when we talked more about feng shui, is that loving all the things in your home is what's most important. So if you have a fabric that you love, or something from your grandmother that you loved, like, you can really kind of frame and put up anything. So
Mhm.
that's a way to make your home very interesting, and make it look more custom.
And I would say too, I'm sure that design consultations not only are great for ideas that you wouldn't have had normally, but to blend maybe you and your partner's style or
Yes.
settle debates and save marriages. I'm sure you end up being a marriage counselor sometimes through those. So, I totally see where that is. And even just the last session we did about feng shui, your home office space, where you were talking about you should have things you love in your office. I was like looking around our office thinking, wow, I really don't. So I hung up some pictures of my kids, and now I see those every day. And I'm just like, all right, just a little bit happier. So,
Um,
yeah, I absolutely see where that is key. And I love that you're offering online services now because I will be picking your brain.
yeah, that's all mainly because of you. I thought about it for a long time, and I was like, oh no, I should be in a space. And then it's so funny, like, since you kind of encouraged me to do that, I've had so many people that don't live around here. They're like, hey, do you offer this? And I'm like, actually, yes, I do. So I have to thank you
That's
for
awesome.
that.
That's awesome. I think we have one topic left, which is
Mhm.
also a good one. And this one is small things, big impact, which is, I think of this as like everything from hardware to faucets and mirrors for your bathroom, which are like your vanity mirror,
Mhm.
maybe even your little countertop in your bathroom. So, for all of these things, you can finance them into your renovation loan 100%. When would you have to? Like, if you were missing a faucet. You've got to have a faucet in your bathroom to make the house meet health and safety. Whether you get a really inexpensive one or a more expensive one is up to you. But if it is a cosmetic decision and something that you guys are just doing to make the house feel more like your own, you have the option. It could be either or. You could absolutely decide to do it on your own later. You could include it in the renovation loan. And these things can have such a big impact. And I love this slide we have up right now because it shows you some ideas that we were talking about. So,
Mhm.
Kate, tell us from a designer's perspective, what are those little things that you think have the huge impact that people can really do on their own as time goes to make their house have their character and their feeling?
Yeah, and these, like you said, these are all really great because you can add character to your home without, a huge budget. I mean, you can spend a lot of money on these things if you want, but you don't have to, which is awesome. Bathroom mirrors are huge for me. You can pick those. You can pick cool, unique ones up at Home Goods. You can go to your local thrift stores and find like something that's really cool and old and use it as it is or paint it. Those are really nice options. And it just gives such a nice, unique look in the bathroom. Again, you don't have to search bathroom mirror. Like you can, unless you want, like a medicine cabinet mirror, you can literally put up any mirror your little heart desires. It doesn't have to be a bathroom mirror. So mirrors are huge. Cabinet hardware is a big one for me. It's it's not only something that you can one do yourself. Two, we now have a million options for where you can purchase it. You don't have to just go get it from the hardware store. You can get something that looks like you bought it at a hardware store on Amazon for a third, fourth, fifth of the price. It's going to be hollow as opposed to solid. So you'll notice the weight difference, but that's basically it. And almost no one's going to notice when you have it on your cabinet. And the other reason I love, maybe budgeting less for hardware is, you're putting a lot of money into a kitchen. Hardware is a super easy thing that you can update. Like right now, matte black hardware is still super in, right? And it might be something that becomes classic that we always use. But let's say that in a couple years, it's completely out and everyone hates it. Well, you can very easily just order chrome handles. Oh, chrome's in now. Great. Chrome is back. Let's throw up chrome handles. So that's something that you could switch out every few years. And even though it's a very small detail of your kitchen, it actually makes a huge impact. So, you could feel like you're updating your kitchen every few years without getting new countertops and new flooring and new cabinets, because those are all very expensive items to replace. Hardware is like nothing compared to all of those things. So I think that that is absolutely huge. Doorknobs are a really nice one that you can change out pretty easily yourself. Again, there's a lot of resources that we can get them now that are not expensive. And they, if you have those kind of like old, like brassy golden handles from like the 70s, 80s, they really, it's kind of this really small detail that can very much date the overall appearance of your home. And you kind of don't realize it until you change them. And then you're like, oh my God, this makes such a huge difference. So that's another one. Trim, crown molding, something you can easily add to give your home. And that kind of falls in with, wainscoting and things like that as well. It just helps give your home a more custom look, especially if you bought a very builder grade home. That's a really easy way to add some character and some personalization to the space.
I think
And then
another
like,
one you had
yeah.
mentioned the other day too was the light switches. And it made
Oh
me think of
yeah.
it when you mentioned the doorknobs, because so many times I'll see an appraisal and it has a picture of like the yellowy light switch covers and the yellow switches and plugs. Yeah.
They're awful. And it's like, those are not expensive to replace. Like it's such an, if you already, especially if you've already hired an electrician for your reno loan, give them the, your sockets and just like, please replace all of these. Super,
Yeah.
it's such an easy thing to do. You can replace the covers if you want,
Yeah.
but the covers are just such a, at least do the covers, like my Lord. I hate when and I see that a lot, going into people's homes and it's like, they've done all this work, but like that's something that they don't change out. And I might notice it instantly because I'm looking at that kind of stuff. But even if you don't consciously notice it, you subconsciously notice it. Like it
Right.
feels off, or it feels dated, or it feels just kind of old and stale, and that's something that you want to eliminate. You don't want you're putting in all this work, and especially if you're moving into a new home, you want to freshen it up. You want that fresh feeling. And it's these little tiny details that I think can make the most difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I see that in a picture, it just makes me think of like a house from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is change that out, and it's going to be such a different feeling.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was our last topic. Shane, do we have anything else? Just questions. So we'd love to take questions from anybody that has any questions. And just to remind you guys, we do this once a month. Be on the lookout for our next invite. We are tossing around ideas right now. So if there's something you'd love to know about, let us know. We'd love to hear that as well. And Caroline, do we have any questions?
We do. I will start with the first one. Where should you start when looking for a qualified contractor?
Uh-oh, Caroline, we lost you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where should you start when looking for a qualified contractor?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll take that. So when you're looking for a qualified contractor, we have so many resources right now for you to be able to look at that. First thing, you can do your cursory review online. So I say go to Home Advisor or Yelp for the good reviews and check out Better Business Bureau for the bad reviews. You want to check both places, see what their online presence is, see what other people are saying. It's great to have a recommendation from a family member or a friend as a jumping off point, because that's somebody that has done that work before, or somebody in your neighborhood. Like right now, there are so many neighborhood groups out there. Like there's Nextdoor, there's Facebook. You can ask in your neighborhood groups, hey, has anybody here had some work done that you thought was great? Anybody you'd like to recommend? Just make sure you're doing your follow-up checks to see, okay, this person recommended them. Let me check online and see what other people are saying. Let me check Better Business Bureau, see if there are any bad reviews. Things that you should look for, you want to make sure they're licensed. If the city or state you're in requires licensing, you want to make sure they're insured. And you can absolutely request somebody provide you an insurance certificate. That's super common. We do it on every single renovation loan. They can provide you a certificate that's got your name and information on it for your project. And you want to make sure they've been in business for a little while, especially if you're doing a big project. We typically look for someone to have been in business for at least 2 years. If you're going to give them $40,000, even if you're paying them a little bit at a time, you want to make sure that they're used to managing a project that size and that they can get that work done for you.
Thank you. And I guess along those lines as well, can you use family members as a contractor for your renovation loan? That's a great question.
So we have 2 renovation loans that would allow you to use a family member as a contractor. They're conventional renovation loans. So Fannie Mae Home Style or Freddie Choice would both allow you to use a family member. So if your dad is handy and he's a licensed and insured contractor, or maybe your uncle or someone else in your family and you'd like them to take on the project, you can do that. We will have a third party confirm, is the bid that dad is giving you enough to get the total project done if dad broke his arm and can't finish it and someone else has to pick it up. So, we might have to finance a little bit more than dad's actually going to charge you. And we'll make sure at the end, any leftover reduces off of your loan amount. But you can, and we do have options where you can have a family member be your contractor.
Awesome. Thank you. Kate, this is for you. From a design standpoint, would you suggest wall sconces or table lamps on the side of your bed?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. So I can't really say that I would suggest one or the other, because I like them both. I really have a thing for lighting, and I really, really love lamps, and I'm buying them all the time and switching them out. So I think that could depend on your space. So let's say that you have maybe your master bedroom is a smaller room. You have a queen or king size bed, but we want to make sure, and I'll kind of pull on my feng shui background a little bit here, is, you know, especially for a master bedroom, we never want like the bed against the wall with one nightstand, because you don't have room for two. We always want it to be balanced, because that can show imbalance in your partnership. If, you know, the person that has the nightstand is typically seen as like the dominant in the relationship, or, you know, they're more important or something, it's very subconscious, but so making sure that we have that equal space. So if you don't have room for a nightstand or a large nightstand where you can really have, because I do also hate when you have just enough room and it's like nightstand, bed, nightstand, and they're literally touching each other. It's like everything needs to have some space around it, right? So in that time, you either maybe don't have room for nightstands, which is totally fine. So I think wall sconces would be really wonderful for that. Maybe you, instead of a nightstand as well, you do just a floating shelf with your wall sconce, so that you have the visual appearance of there being space underneath your shelf, which is going to make that wall and that space feel larger. So I think wall sconces are really great for that. They're also just aesthetically fun and different, right? I would say too, if you read a lot in bed, I know like I read almost every night before I go to sleep. It like calms me down, relaxes me, because I have kind of a crazy brain. And so it just kind of helps me shut down so I can go to sleep easier. So like that is kind of a nice, if you're a reader, to kind of have one that's like that. One of the pictures that we had in the slides where they were kind of up above the headboards. One, it just aesthetically looks really nice. And two, it could be really beneficial for somebody that reads. So I don't think you can go wrong either way. I like the look of both. I would just say that it's important that you always have two on either side of the bed, and that they should match if at all possible, just again, to show that balance. Just to throw this in here, maybe it's, you know, especially, I will say, especially if you're a single person and you don't want to be single anymore, you know, you want to prepare your room like you're ready for a partner. So making sure you have that balance is probably more important than one or the other.
Love that. Very good advice. Thank you. 2 more questions. Do professional painters count as trades covered by a renovation loan?
That's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. Professional painters count as trades, and we see them often on our renovation loans. A lot of times they don't have to be licensed, and that's completely fine. If the state or the city doesn't require licensing, we don't care about that. Often we see that they have a lead safe certificate, which means they know how to work on a property that was built before 1978, but we can absolutely include any work that you're having done by a painter.
Awesome. All right, one last question. Can you use peel and stick wallpaper as a kitchen backsplash?
Oh my God, yes. And it looks really fun too. So especially, you know, when you want something that's a little different and a little fun, or you live in a rental property, peel and stick wallpaper is an awesome way to bring some character into your space. I absolutely love that idea. Another place you can use it just for fun is like if you have a set of stairs, and I think we've maybe talked about this before, on your stair risers. Is something really cool. I love using, it's so awesome that we have peel and stick wallpaper now. Like, can we all just agree that that's a super awesome addition to our lives? Because there's really so many places you can put it, and it adds so much character and your personality, which is huge for the energy of your home. So yeah, I absolutely love that idea.
Awesome. Thank you again both for being here today and sharing your knowledge, and I look forward to your next session with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing from you guys. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about renovation financing or Kate's design skills. Our information is right here. You can reach me at victoria.dowling@myccmortgage.com, and you can reach Kate at homesliceliving.com. So we look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing you on our next webinar.
Yeah, see you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.